Roll call, please.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Trelka. White.
Here.
Little.
Here. Would you please join us in a moment of silence? Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Morning, Helen.
Okay, moving on to item 1, agenda received as proposed or as amended.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or comments for the agenda? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Public comments, is there anybody who'd like to speak to the board this time? It's not an agenda item. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to claims and payments. Resolution A, James?
Claims came out to $380,113.06. The big ones were really secondary roads, $170,277.82. There was an installment for workers' comp premium for just over $19,000, and then the other, really just the big ticket item was sheriff's office for about $33,829. So, other than that, everything looked normal. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the resolution? Roll call, please.
White.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Okay, item 4 is a presentation. We're going to have an update on the sculpture. It's going to go outside the courthouse honoring the 19th Amendment presented by the Cedar Falls Waterloo 19th Amendment Centennial Committee. Good morning, please.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an update. I hope you can hear me okay. I've got a bit of a cold going on, so the voice is not real good. I'm Maureen White of Cedar Falls, chairperson of the committee. Just to review, the Cedar Falls Waterloo 19th Amendment Centennial Committee was formed to commission and install permanent artwork to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the Constitution, which after 144 years as a country, finally recognized the fundamental right of women to vote. Committee members include individuals and representatives of the American Association of University Women, Cedar Falls Waterloo, the Cedar Falls Public Art Committee, the Cedar Falls Women's Club, League of Women Voters of Blackhawk-Bremer Counties, NAACP, Tuesday Club, YWCA of Blackhawk County, and the Waterloo Center for the Arts. Consultants and members of the committee also include Tom Stancliffe, Professor of Art and Sculpture at UNI, and Dan Perry, Art Shop Technician and Instructor at UNI. On March 19th, 2019, Barbara Brown and I presented a proposal to the supervisors to install a sculpture on the grounds of the courthouse. On March 26, 2019, the supervisors gave their unanimous approval. We began fundraising in May and seeking donations from individuals, organizations, as well as applying for grants. Fundraising continues. In October, a request for proposals was distributed to artists with designs due in November. Artists were asked to design a sculpture to represent, honor, and recognize the sacrifices and persistence of all suffragists, white and non-white, rather than any one specific person. It was also to serve as a reminder to future generations that we must remain vigilant in order to maintain women's rights and voting rights. The artwork was to be designed to be freestanding and able to withstand the elements of the Iowa winters and to withstand public interaction. The committee selected a sculpture by an artist named Sarah Deppie called We Rise. This design most clearly represented women from among the designs that we had received. According to the artist, "We Rise" is symbolic of the growth of women's rights, emphasizing the diverse women that have contributed and those that are still working toward equality. The sculpture, this might be a good time to give you a couple of the illustrations. Okay, the sculpture is composed, as you can see, of female profile silhouettes. And the diverse women are portrayed are of both the past and present, merging together all of the women fighting for equal rights. The silhouettes of women's profiles are stacked in an upward movement. The profiles get larger as they rise to emphasize this growth. Supporting the profiles are three curved forms that grow larger in conjunction with the profiles. All parts of the sculpture will be created with stainless steel with possible moments of colors. And as you can see, there are two different renderings there. One shows basically just the stainless steel, and that could incorporate shiny stainless steel on some, brushed on others. There could be some variations in the texture of the steel. There can be slight variations in the coloration of the steel to, again, convey that idea of diversity among women. Those are details that would be worked out with the artist. This just gives you the preliminary overall design of what this could look like. We Rise would be approximately 11 feet by 8 feet by 4. So basically 11 feet high, 8 feet front to back, and about 4 feet wide. The strong nature of the sculpture was designed to work well to contrast to the large scale of the courthouse. Miss Debbie has created large-scale works in her career, including outdoor sculptures. She holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts program sculpture emphasis from UNI in 2011, and a Master of Fine Arts program with a sculpture emphasis from the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2016, and she currently resides and works in Madison. As I said, the designs presented to you today are not final, but they give you a general idea about the structure of the piece. Actual scale and color variation, if any, will be determined in consulting with the artist. And one of the examples given there has some red on it. That's just to give you an idea of the possibilities of what could be done if that was of interest to people. The one concern when you come to adding paint is it does change the maintenance needs, because that will at some point obviously need some touch-up work. It may be more vulnerable to scratching and that sort of thing. So those are things to take into consideration as we move through the process. So we look forward to working with the Board of Supervisors and look forward to your input regarding your reactions to the design. We did have conversations with Roy Geving last week, so we'll continue to work with him regarding the placement out front of the courthouse, taking in mind where currently there are utilities, plantings, and so forth, and what might be the best orientation for the structure, that sort of thing. So I'll be happy to take any questions if you have any at this time. Otherwise, just feel free to forward comments or questions to the committee after you've had a bit of time to think about it as well.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Anybody got any questions?
No, I'll just, and the public, and let everybody know that I'm hosting the holiday fundraiser for the 19th Amendment Committee on December 7th from 6 to 8 o'clock, and the entire public's welcome. If they have any questions about the event or want to attend, they can just get a hold of me.
Very good. Okay, then, well, thank you very much for the
Thanks very much.
presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item 5, receiving project updates from department heads and/or elected officials. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, County Engineer. I wanted to give you a brief update of our public meeting last Tuesday evening at the Dunkerton Public Library. This was concerning the East Bennington Road Bridge. We presented the audience with the four options of the fate of the bridge. One would be to just leave it exactly as it is. The other one would be to tear it down. We could also replace the structure with a new structure. And the last option would be to repair the current bridge. There was good attendance there. Supervisor Schwartz was there. I would estimate, I believe we had 28 people in attendance. We got some good feedback from the audience. There were quite a few people who would like us to repair the existing bridge. If you recall, that estimate is now 2 years old, but at the time it was approximately $210,000 to repair the bridge and hopefully get it reopened for $210,000. People seemed interested in that option. We did receive the $100,000 settlement from the as part of an individual crossing over the bridge the year before. So people liked the idea of repairing the bridge because we had half the money. Theoretically, we had half the money already to do this repair. We did receive a few comments. We told the people they could have until the end of the year to make any comments. I said we would do nothing physically to the bridge because we have not budgeted any work items yet. We are looking at budgeting in the FY21 budget, perhaps some money to do an engineering study on repairing the bridge. That's the direction we're taking right now, is probably doing a study to look at repair options. Can I answer any questions or?
I think, Kathy, the people that you've forwarded information to us from have been also for the support of the repair rather than the new.
Yes.
That seemed to be, you said, most of the people in attendance. I know it was only 28, but most people there felt that way, or?
A good number of them who were vocal felt that way.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't recall anybody saying that they wanted to see the full replacement. And only one gentleman said, if you tear it down, bring it over to my yard because I want the structure. But he seemed interested in having it repaired too. So it's everybody that spoke out publicly and spoke out individually was for the repair option.
Okay. Well, one of them, the options, or at least one that somebody brought up, was just making it a walking bridge only.
Yes, and I said that the Secondary Roads Department, we have no walking bridges in our inventory. That might be something we could look at giving to conservation. We are charged with, of course, spending our road use tax money on roadway bridges. So those are a few of the issues that I mentioned that would have to be worked out. I said I'm not in favor of that option, but that doesn't mean we can't explore that option. Primarily, those people were interested in using it for recreation and hunting, that type of thing, just to leave it open for that type of use.
So what kind of a timeline then are you thinking?
So we will budget several $1,000s. We're requesting proposals from our bridge inspectors right now. So we'll budget that money in our FY21 budget to do an engineering study to look at repair options. I suspect the cost of $208,000 will have gone up. The bridge is still sitting there deteriorating, so it may have gone up significantly. I don't know. Those are some options that we will find out probably a year from now. And then it would be in FY22 or FY23's budget where we would actually have some money to change the physical nature of the bridge.
Thank you.
That's how we're proceeding at this point.
Kathy, did you get that letter drafted to the Duncans?
Yes, so I'm working on that. I was just speaking with Attorney Burke on that, and we've made a few changes, and I will get that out this morning or later today.
We're just going to put a 2-week time period on there.
So I was just speaking to Mr. Burke about that, and I would like to considering the time of year we're in, I will strongly urge them to go with that 2-week window. But if that becomes unrealistic due to replanting methods or practices, I would like to give them until next spring to,
I wouldn't. I think it's a slap in the face to us up here, especially myself. I voted against that settlement and then turned around and voted for it. We paid for it twice now, and they went right ahead and put trees back. So as far as I'm concerned, 2-week notice. If you don't get anything from there, the board will take care of it from that on. They should have known better anyway, putting any trees in there.
sure, I don't disagree with that,
But
but.
why don't you make sure your people are watching that for the next 2 weeks, and if they don't comply with the letter, then send it back to the board.
Okay.
Pete, I think you were involved with that, were you not, talking to the attorney and their attorney as well?
I was, during the early part of the litigation, remember we had insurance counsel from Cedar Rapids that came and spoke to you about the proposed settlement. I haven't talked with them since then, so this is a very unusual move, frankly, and surprised the dickens out of me, so. But I think now it's going to be up to the homeowners to respond to the engineer, and then if that response is not what the engineer expects, then over to you guys as you have requested.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you, Kathy. Okay, is there anybody else? Okay, moving on to minutes approved for November the 19th, 2019.
So moved.
I know there's a lot of discussion on these. Did we get them corrected the way we wanted them?
The minutes, I
Yeah.
was going to say too, there's an amendment in there. It's too bad
Okay.
Grant's not here, but I can comment on that.
But they're
when we
part
get
of the
there.
minutes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so they're correct. Okay, any other questions on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 7 is consent agenda be made with a single resolution.
Second.
Okay, is there any questions for that one? Roll call, please.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Little.
Yes.
Did you contact Lauderdale? Did you contact Brent to be here? Remind him?
I did not contact him or remind him.
He knows what the time is.
It's,
Okay, well, we'll move on again. Item 9 is contracts and agreements. Resolution of the federal aid swap agreement between Blackhawk County, Iowa Department of Transportation. This deals with King Road over Rock Creek for estimated eligible cost of $380,000. Kathy, you did send a memo to the board on this. You want to just briefly say
Yeah.
what it is?
These are a standard agreement with Iowa DOT that we are committing to using federal funds, but now the DOT is keeping the federal funds and they give us state gas tax dollar money. That's why we call it the SWAP program. We're committing to using a portion of our federal funds, $380,000 for this King Road Bridge replacement. This should take place next construction season. It will be in the March letting through the DOT. So it should be constructed next year on King Road Bridge, and that's our engineer's estimate is $380,000.
Resolution be pretty similar to this one then, just a
Yes.
different location.
Right, this is for our paving project on Elk Run Road next year. This money we receive through the MPO. So here, we received it in a competitive process for up to $900,000.
Okay,
I just have a question. What happens if these aren't approved? Because I don't agree with the original motivation behind this legislation, because it was really a way of getting around prevailing wage.
The swap money, you mean?
Right.
I'm sorry, so what?
Well, I'm just trying. So what are the implications if we don't approve this? Then we're just not in the swap program, or what is? I mean,
So we would, if we don't approve this, both of these agreements, then we would, I guess, forfeit using the first money. We would not be able to use our bridge money we receive approximately $400,000 every year of federal bridge money. We could either not use it this year or not use it entirely, I
Right.
guess,
Okay.
depending on your wishes. The second resolution, since that's money that we are receiving from the MPO, it would just go back to the MPO, and we would,
They would reallocate it. to other
right, they would
places.
reallocate it to the other
Okay.
Other areas.
entities.
Okay, is there anybody else got any questions? Okay, resolution A,
Motion to approve?
Second.
roll call, please.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Little.
Yes. And resolution B,
So moved.
Second?
is there any questions on this one? Okay, roll call, please.
Schwartz,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Resolution C is the best bid from Kirk Groves Company, Warren of Iowa, for the courthouse second floor carpet project for the amount of $53,270.63 be approved for the chair.
So moved.
Second?
Rory?
Good morning, Board. Rory Giving, Maintenance Superintendent.
How many bids did we have?
We received 3 bids for this project.
3 bids?
And you may have noticed also within the Board of Supervisors office, I did place a map of the second floor, which identified each of the areas that would be receiving carpet. We have worked up with the contractor a document or a memo, I guess you'd call it, that we're going to utilize throughout the project to give to a department to let them know when we're going to be coming to their area so they can get any breakables or anything like that out of the way. So this project will involve a lot of communication between our office and each department to make sure it goes smoothly. All the work will be done after hours. So with the small disruption of getting your breakables and your items like that out of the way, it should go fairly smoothly. We do have an estimated completion date of March 1st on this project.
And this is getting the boardroom offices also.
Yes, yeah.
What's budgeted amount?
We had $60,000 budgeted for this.
Okay. Okay, is there any other questions for Rory?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
White,
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Okay, moving on to item 10, other business. This is resolution A, that the amendment to the resolution of Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors hereby petition the governor of Iowa State Legislature to address and continue improvements for the failings and shortcomings of mental health system be approved. So I'm assuming this is just added information under our resolution last week, is that correct?
Yes, and that's what I wanted to ask the board too. I said, we'd all signed it. And so I thought if there were anybody that wanted to change anything or wanted to see it again, I have the copies here for us to relook at it. But I said I think the changes that we proposed, we were all in favor of by signing it. I apologize to say to Grant, I looked for him yesterday. I think what had happened is we'd had several exchanges of emails from ISAC's 2019 priorities and things like that. And I think in his folder for the agenda were those priorities, and that's where he had the list. And since that time, Dan had submitted something else to us, and then we added our comments. So
Dana, the original copy that the board signed, this is additional information, right? That's going to be added to it?
I don't think this is
No.
additional information. I think the one that the board signed is the correct.
It's got everything in
Yep.
it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
yes,
So really all we're doing is approving that additional information.
because I think Grant had maybe published the original one and not the one we had finalized.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions on this?
Nope.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve?
Second?
Okay, roll call, please.
White,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Leyland,
Yes.
Little.
Yes. Okay, item 10B is discussion, possible board action on the security. Basically, we got two options. The first option, the contract expires the 31st of December, to extend it for 6 months, the rest of the fiscal year, and then send out RFPs. Or option 2, is to roll it another 3 years. We're only in the first year or 3-year contract. The board normally has the capability of doing an extra 3 years, and Permar has listed the increase for each year in 220, 221, and 222. So basically, the board's got 2 options to go with today, and if they go with option 2, they can see the amount of the increases and also the percentage that would go to the officer wages down there, which I don't think we've seen that before, so that's kind of nice to see that part of it. So it's really up to the board on what they want to do, so I'll open it up for discussion up here first.
I would prefer option 1 to have a more complete discussion during the budget process, and I appreciate that we see the percentages of the wages going to the security personnel, but I'd like to actually see what the wage structure is and how that breaks out, because you got a situation, people are making the same company, some of the same guards make more money at $5 movie night than they do being guards here at the courthouse, and we've got to change that situation.
And I will, maybe I said it, there's no increase if we decide to go with option 1 for the remainder of 6 months. I would imagine you would put our RFPs out in May, probably May.
More than likely.
So we'd have them ready. So really, as far as budget, we could guesstimate roughly what we want to budget, and then set the RFPs out prior and go from there. May have other companies, I don't know. Usually there's 2 or 3 that bid on it over the years, and it kind of goes back and forth. So it's really up to the board what they want to do at this time. I think these increases for the second year are probably the largest increases we've had. I think they usually average about 3%. Am I right, Rory?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
So I think these are probably a little higher and allocates a little bit more. The only thing is, I don't know as a board if we have a contract with a company that we can dictate to them what they should pay to their employees.
Yeah.
I think we can, but I think
Maybe for courthouse employees, I was gonna say, because
Yeah.
obviously they have other employees, I don't know if we can or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know, who makes what places or so forth. I don't know what the criteria that that company uses. So basically, it's up to the board. You got option 1 or option 2 that you can go with. And I think it was laid out pretty well for Rory putting it out like this.
Okay.
Yeah, I like having the 2 options.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
good. So anyway, it's up to the board.
Thanks for taking it back to them and getting this worked out.
Okay, you're welcome.
I'm in favor of option 2.
Well, we need motions.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, is there any problem with waiting? I mean, or having more discussion on it, or your
Why
thoughts
would we
on
wait? I don't think we have a right to know what, that's none of our that's not public information, what an
No.
employee played
No,
outside.
no, I don't mean that at all. I just mean in having more discussion. And I think the things that were brought up at the meeting were more security.
Yeah, as we talked about last week, we mentioned the idea of possibly adding some additional, or not additional, but adding services at our other facility, Pinecrest, which one thing that has to be considered with that, that would not be covered under the jail's room and board because it wouldn't qualify as a courthouse. So at budget time, if we're entertaining the idea of putting a guard over at Pinecrest, that would then be on that'd be a different funding source. So I just wanted to make that note. The other discussion topic was armed guards. I think outsourcing that was pretty consistent, that everybody agreed that that wasn't the right avenue to take, but to possibly look at working with deputies. That's something that we've looked at in the past. We've looked at, I think every time this contract comes up, we do review that to see if that makes sense financially.
But what we have on the agenda today is option 1 and 2, that we've had that discussion last week. And
Yeah.
there was much support for it, so you have to make a decision on option 1 or 2, or don't do anything, and the contract expires in 5 weeks. So it's up to the board and what they want to do.
It's unfortunate Dan's not here. He was one of those on the committee that was wanting to wait, I believe. or
I mean,
wanting to
in
consider,
all
yeah.
honesty, probably this all should have been taken care of a month or two ago. And we're bumping up now towards the end, so the two options are laid out there. If we do an RFP, decide to do an RFP in June 31st, you always risk the increase could be higher than what you're looking at today here. I mean, you just don't know.
Yeah.
They've been pretty steady over the years, but again, this is the first time I've seen this large of an increase, so.
I will mention with option one, there is one benefit with that also would be to get that particular contract in line with all of our other contracts that typically expire at the end of the fiscal years, whereas this one's the end of the calendar year. So that would be one positive with extending it out till the end of this next fiscal year. It's a small
I
benefit.
don't see that as a positive, but we've got contracts all over.
Yeah,
So anyway, board, it's up to option one or option two.
I mean, I guess I'd like a legal opinion on what we're entitled to know, because I know that the guards are really, really underpaid, and I'm not comfortable with this situation, and I want to see a change before I lock us into anything for 3 more years. And so,
Pete, can we actually tell the company that we want X amount?
You, remember, this is a contract between two different parties, one private, one public.
Yeah.
They are not obligated, as a private company, to give you any kind of information. But since they are contracting with you, you may be able to reach an agreement. You're not going to be able to compel them under the law to release that information, but you may be able to reach an agreement with them simply because both parties want to enter into a contract. So you can't force them to give you that information, but you can, by agreement, get that information. And once you had that information, there is a possibility that you could be forced to release that information to the public. Those people that are the competitors of this company would like to have that information. So if it's given to you and it is public information, you could be forced to release that to the public. There is a possibility that that could be protected information in your contract too, that the parties could agree in an enforceable way that that information will be kept public. Kept private, so that only the Board of Supervisors knows about that. But boy, once you start getting into that area where the board knows but the public doesn't know, you've got a difficult time of keeping that information private.
What are the board's thoughts as far as if we look at these two options for today? Were they still wanting to consider looking at armed guards and other options for both
Well,
facilities?
if you go with option one, then you can put that in RFP if that's what you want to do. If you go with option two, then you're locked in for 3 years at these rates that we show here. But you got to figure
It's gonna be a big increase.
it's going to be an increase, and the sheriff is the one that's paying the bill on this. And
Not necessarily, you've said.
Only with regards to
This
the
facility.
courthouse. If it was another facility, then that would be a different funding source.
But again, I keep getting back to that. We had that discussion last week, and the board wanted these options on this week, and we have them on there. So I guess you've got 3 choices, option one, option two, or don't do anything and let the contract expire the 31st. So,
But we knew Tony has addressed, sometimes, just in the past, Tony has addressed the cost of having like one of his deputies or more here too. So
We haven't really looked at one. We've looked at just going all out with deputies in the past. So just providing all of the services.
the concern was it was a lack of resources with having a full-time deputy here when we can do, I don't know how long we've had security in the courthouse, and we've had the same type of security down there, and I don't know if we've had any major problems over the years. keep in mind, a lot of, well, I don't want to say a lot because I don't know, but I do know there's courthouses don't have any security. And there's courthouses that don't have the machine that we have also along with our security, so. But anyway, what sits before you today is option 1, 2, or don't do anything. And if we don't do anything, the contract expires the 31st, and I'm not sure what happens other than we close shop downstairs and we don't have any security at all. So it's up to the board.
You're on that committee, Chris, I guess if you
I mean,
feel
I would-
strongly about it, but yeah.
I would make a motion for option 1, just because what I'm hearing from Pete is that it's complicated, but yes, is the answer to my question, that we could try to get that information. I just want to make sure that we've got folks that perform an important role at the courthouse here, that they're being taken care of in the way that they need to be
So
taken
now-
care of.
Now you're saying that they're not doing their job, is what you just said.
I didn't say that at all, Craig. That's ridiculous. Where'd you get that from?
Just what you
You
just
can't
said.
just sit up here and make stuff up, Craig.
You just said they're not doing their job.
No, I did not.
Okay, so we have a motion for option 1.
I have one question on this too.
Sure.
If we can't, let's just say we can't do anything with the wages at all, even in the requesting of it, we can't be guaranteed that they get the wages. Are there other issues that you want to consider, I guess, by having more discussion on it or not?
I mean, I'd like to have the discussion of a deputy in the courthouse to supplement what we already have contracted out, but see where that falls in the budget, see where everything else falls in the budget as well. Because we won't know if that's a viable option or not till we see what all the numbers come up to.
You don't have any idea what the numbers that come up to would be previously when we've had those discussions?
What I can tell you is, I can tell you a rough number on if we outsourced armed guards, and that number would be double. I can't really tell you exactly what it would be for a deputy. Tony might be able to speak to that a little more. I know we have looked at that in the past. Obviously, you've got, everything. You've got your salary and benefits that you got to take into consideration too, so.
Is Tony here? I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was.
If it was a Blackhawk County deputy, then obviously the discussion would have to be the sheriff's. And I would assume the only thing he would probably do is hire somebody brand new and say, go ahead, pay his wages and everything, because training wise, he's not gonna put a deputy over here that spent a lot of time and money on resources and have him over here in the security, so. Anyway, those are discussions that we can have.
Well, if we don't go one of these ways, we won't need to have it though, is kind of where we're.
Well, if we don't go either way, then you don't have a contract come the 31st, you don't have security down there.
Okay.
So it's up to you. To be honest with you, I prefer going with the 3 years of this increase because it's a little bit more than what we paid in the past, and it kind of shows the increase to the wages down there. I have no idea what Permar pays any other place. I have no idea. I have no idea what their responsibilities are at other places or anything. I just know what we deal with here at the courthouse. So,
Tony, are you available, I guess, to just respond to this a little bit about what it would take for us to do it? I know I've not been a supporter of having it in the past. I don't know if, from a safety and security standpoint, what your thoughts are on it.
So you can't factor just one deputy,
No.
because one deputy needs relief factor. You've got to factor in whatever that relief factor is. So you figure one FTE for a full-time deputy is about $120,000. That's salary and benefits. That's where we're at contractually. So one deputy, and you're right, I don't have an extra deputy just laying around. So we would hire someone, and we do have a utility squad right now that provides courthouse security. They provide extradition and transports. That's what that team is required to do. So if that's what you wanted, is you wanted just one deputy to be here in the courthouse full-time, backing up and roving and doing that kind of work, you factor $120,000 for that position, but you also factor the relief factor for when that deputy's off for vacations and sick time or whatever, and that's so it's about 1.5 FTEs per relief, and then you just plus up based on whatever your staffing level is for whatever you want. So that 120,000 becomes 180,000 to whatever it is, based on it's pretty simple math. If you wanted us to take the whole thing over, it's about $1 million, just over $1.2 million, to do exactly what they're doing downstairs right now. So certainly you're getting a benefit based on that civilian contract. We can't touch it for what you're doing right now at what, $300,000, $400,000, whatever you're doing right now.
Tony, over the years, obviously, we've had circumstances, the response time from the deputies when they're notified downstairs by security is usually what?
Worst case scenario, about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, sooner than that, because again, we've got that team now that is their primary function, is to be here or to be close.
We
So-
do have deputies most of the time in courts.
We do, yeah.
So really, essentially, we do have deputies in the courthouse, if
Yeah.
not within 3 minutes or so forth.
When they're in the courthouse, they're with an inmate, so they're not like gainful where they can actually
No, I understand.
leave and move. But yeah, we just had one walk by with, so they're actually babysitting an inmate with when they're here. But it doesn't take long for us to get over here. 3 to 5 minutes would be like the longest it would take for somebody to respond. But that's if they have to run, get their gun, and get over here. But
I know it's the same way up here too. We've had a couple of responses from the boardroom and they're here right away. I mean, not only one, we usually get 2 or
Yeah.
3, so.
and we pride ourselves on trying to be quick, but it's, it really is, it comes down to what does the board prefer? When I first started hearing that we were talking about, arming civilians, and I've sent you emails about
Yes.
the concerns about if we're going to arm civilian guards, and there's concern with training, there's concern with other less lethal measures and the amount of training and the amount of engagement that they have with those kinds of things. God forbid you give somebody a gun and think that that's going to fix the problem, and quite frankly, now all you have is here I am, and the next thing I have is escalation to deadly force, and clearly, our staff is well trained for all of those escalation measures. So there's definitely worthiness of looking at my staff for a solution, but there's cost associated with that as well. So
And I'm assuming you would have seen some kind of history from us, if maybe that would come from you to be a recommendation, if you thought that was something we should have considered.
well, the only thing I will throw into that for your consideration, never before in the history of the Blackhawk County Jail are we holding more forcible felons than we're holding right now. And if Brian were here this morning, the county attorney would also echo that the cases that are being tried in this courthouse are more serious now than ever in the history. So the team that I have assigned to courthouse security are being tasked more frequently with higher profile cases than they've ever been tasked, which means the people coming in to witness those cases, quite often we have gang on gang type cases where you've got parity, people that sit on this side of the aisle, people that sit on this side of the aisle, and we stand in the middle. So those are happening very, very frequently. So the stuff that's happening and the stuff that's trying to get through and the things that we are deterring at the front counter or at the front doors, they're more serious than they've ever been before.
And a good thing to reinforce it, if you remember last week when you come in, there was a deputy standing there with our security, watching people come in.
We take those kinds of threats seriously.
So we at that point last week, I don't know if it was just the day I came in or what, but we had a certified deputy standing there for that purpose only. So we do have access to deputies over there. We just,
We can't commit to it daily, but when we have significant risk and significant threat, we do try and plus up those kinds of concerns.
and then I think over the years, I think we've all noticed that when we've had some pretty intense trials, you tend to see quite a few deputies around this area, not only inside, but outside in the parking lot,
You bet.
out across the street, Waterloo Police and so forth. So
Yeah.
anyway, board, what's your pleasure?
I could be comfortable with option 2. I'm just trying to get a better sense of that this has enough of an impact on these employees here that are working here and that they're getting enough increase, so I feel comfortable. That's my whole goal here, is I think that they're underpaid and they do a good job and they need to be rewarded for that. So I'd rather be able to see like an actual wage structure so I understand that better. But I don't know if we could put these instead of like the percentage increases, if we have these, in real dollar figures. I understand, that, 52% of 5.7%.
What's that mean, Rory? when
If
say
you,
52% on the first year.
Yeah, if you if you looked at the agenda action request from Abby, we actually did lay out the dollar figures on that.
Okay.
So for an example, currently the guards that are at 1150, it is approximately about a 50 to 65 cent increase as the years proceed. So the first year would go up 50 cents, second year 55 cents, and third year would be closer to 70 cents. So if that helps.
Yeah.
And that was laid out again in the agenda request. For the actual agenda item, we just felt the percentages were.
And that's the most it's ever been, because it's usually 3%, and we didn't, to be honest with you, the board really knew where that 3%, if it was for administration or.
This is the first time we've had it
or
broke out
employee.
like
And
this.
frankly, I was surprised you got that information.
Yeah.
But I will say too, we do have a security person down there that's been through 2 or 3 different companies that we've had and been in the courthouse since I've been here. So 15 years that individual's been,
Yeah.
a new firm gets it, they hire that one. Well, actually, they've hired most of them every time, didn't they?
Yeah, we have very good guards here, and typically what we've seen in the past, if we do switch a company, they go after those guards because they know they're very good.
I think Permar this last time, they picked up 2, the third one decided not to apply. If
I believe you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, board, back to,
Yeah.
Well, I guess these are just not big enough wage increases for me to catch up with what they're making at other places around this community. Doing less stressful, I guarantee you it's less stressful doing $5 movie night than it is guarding the courthouse. And I think they deserve more.
Talking to one of the guards that's not here anymore, he said it was easier out there, or easier here than it was out at the show house on Tuesdays due to the fact of some of the movies that they were seeing. They get fired up seeing the movie and come out and think they're Rambo.
so it's the board's pleasure. Do we have does anybody have a motion for option 2? I heard Chris say option 1.
I said 2.
You said 2.
Option 2.
Well, Chris said it first, option 1. Is there a second to Chris's?
I think I'm leaning closer to the 2 now, but
Is there any support for, we have a motion for option 2, is there any support for a second there? I'll break the tie just to make it, I'll motion, or make a second,
I was gonna say,
just to
yeah,
get a roll call so we can get something moving one way or the other.
sure.
Okay,
I'd have
so,
been willing to go with Chris to have a little more time, but that'll give us a 2-2 vote anyway, so we'd be nowhere.
and I fully understand, Chris, where you're coming
Yeah,
from.
me too.
And it's a discussion that we can still have. This contract here will be in the last part of its contract will be put out for RFP the next time. Without discussion, is that correct, Rory?
Yeah. Would you mind if I check the phone out? Dan Truckley is actually trying to call in, and for some reason he's not able to. Is that okay? He's trying to call in. Oh, it's unplugged.
I doubt very seriously if he's calling in at 10 to 10.
I just they've been texting me.
Saying that he
actually.
tried.
Sorry.
Well, we do have a motion, and we've got a second. And this would be on option 2, and we'll go from there. How's that sound? Let's have a roll call on this,
Two.
on option 2.
On option 2, okay. Leyland,
Yes.
Schwartz,
No.
White,
Yes.
Little.
Yes. So the board approved option 2, and we'll have, I'm sure we'll have further discussion on this. This isn't the first time this has come up with the deputies. It's probably come up 2 or 3 times since I've been here. The wages, frankly, I'm really surprised that we got what we did from this company, because this is the first time I've seen this. It's usually just been a flat 3% each year, so.
I think it's because it was a discussion point in the security
Yeah.
meetings, just what the wage structure was.
And I don't know how many firms there are anymore around here that does that. I mean, we don't get a whole lot of interest. It's usually 2, maybe 3 at best. And again, whoever gets it, they usually keep the same employees.
So they must pay scales.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, motion carried on option 2. Okay, then, any reports from the board? I do have one thing here. It was advertised in the Courier, but we are still needing that Board of Health person, a male or a female. We need a person for the Conservation Board, but really the priority is the Board of Adjustments. We got 3 vacancies that we need to fill there. And I got Gil Mueller a couple weeks ago, but that one there, I think we need to really get going on.
Trying to find some recruits.
Yeah,
Now, the other 2, we probably should be interviewing. I think we had enough candidates.
yeah, the Conservation usually has a pretty good supply. Board of Health, I'm not sure, application-wise, we got 1 more.
One new one, I know.
One new one, I would say.
Okay.
We do have.
Probably, those 2 we could probably work on, because all 3 of them are the 31st of this year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. But that Board of Adjustments with 3 vacancies, I'm not sure they can conduct business.
No, I'm sure not. They
So I think those are the 3, and they meet once a month on Thursday, I believe, at 7. And sometimes they don't meet at all if there wasn't a thing, so maybe we can pick a couple people up there. And also, we need 2 female on the Board of Adjustments, 1 rural, so we need somebody for the rural area.
Now we're desperate. We can use anybody.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just drive around tomorrow and
Pick up people.
stick our head out, start picking them up and saying, can we do that, Pete?
Sign up.
Be careful.
Careful what you wish for.
Wait.
I've got a bullhorn we can use.
Okay, Chris, you got anything?
Yeah, the Middle Cedar River Watershed Management had our quarterly meeting this last Thursday. One of the things we're working on now is we have funding through the start of fiscal 22 is coming up with a plan for how we can maintain a watershed coordinator and then contract probably along with Intercog still some administrative tasks associated with that. And so coming up with something that between the 24 different member entities that we can come up with some kind of sustainable funding model.
Was there an article in the Courier this week, Sunday, with Hollis? And
Right. Yeah. There's been some federal and state money that has come in for a number of watershed projects in different areas, including part of this watershed.
But you know, in all honesty, over the last year or 2, that has come up a lot. So it's getting more and more talked about.
Yeah.
And it's out there. So
It's big work, and this is of the 3 watersheds that Blackhawk County is part of. So we've got the Upper Cedar. That one's still struggling along because they didn't have this big grant to have staff. And then the Wapsie, I'm sure we'll get an update from Dan on some point on that. But this one's the furthest advanced because when I came into it, they had this big HUD grant that allowed for some staffing and allowed for all the planning. So the great thing is that now all this federal and state money is coming in because this is such critical work for flood management and for soil quality and water quality. That here in the Middle Cedar River, we've got all the plans ready to go. And so those make it the most attractive plans to get funding right away and implemented.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Greg, anything?
No.
Linda?
Only comment, and I sent an email to the board about the UCC priorities list, and they would like us to approve or not approve next week to do that, so they're going to come and just present what the final list is and
Okay,
it's for approval, so.
sounds
Thank
good.
you.
Okay, with that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned. Thank you.